for Diggs and Bland to get back to playing together again since the beginning of last year.
Yeah, he is definitely going to try. He practiced yesterday of what they had for a practice, and so hopefully that he and Britt Brown will go out and they'll test this, and hopefully things will line up that he can play today. If not, you'll probably see him next week against Cincinnati. But with that short week, and all of a sudden some guys that might have been the guys that could have played on Sunday are in question today. The one I'd keep an eye on, too, is the Kendricks one. He has got to, Kendricks is, we interview him every week, and, he's one of those guys that's really in tune with his body. He understands how, everything clicks for him, and, he needs really everything right to be able to play. And so if in fact that he doesn't feel good enough today, well, then I expect that Dallas is going to have to make an adjustment at that middle linebacker spot.
Cowboys get Brandon Cooks back today, though. He has been activated from injured reserve. They moved the rookies Kalen Carson and then second-year tackle Awesome Richards to IR. Carson's been dealing with that shoulder. Richards had the ankle injury last week, elevating both from the practice squad Andrew Booth and Kamon Hall, the North Texas Mean Green corner.
There you go. Having Cooks back, I think, really, really helps, because what's going to happen is I think Banks, the Giants' corner, is probably going to travel with Lamb, and we'll see what happens with Cooks. You've been getting some decent play. I wouldn't say great play. Tolbert has flashed at times, but you need somebody in there that's going to be, like I say, there are teams that will attack Banks in this game, or have attacked him really all year, and that's because he travels. And, if you travel and you give up plays and you're covering the opponent's best player, teams really haven't been scared about throwing the ball on him. So I would anticipate, the way to kind of, if Dallas is really interested in getting Lamb away from Banks, if they are, then you put him in the slot and let him go to work, that way, because you're not going to get, what's going to happen is Banks isn't going to go into the slot with him. So the last time these two teams met in Week 12 of those routes that CeeDee was running, they were against Banks. But the time he went to the slot, he didn't go with him. So Dallas, if they want to get him away from Banks, but like I said, teams have attacked Banks as well, and they've had some success.
It's crazy to think the last time we saw Brandon Cooks was against the Giants.
Yeah.
On that Thursday night game. Has not played since. Did have one big play for a third down conversion that set the Cowboys up with first and goal in that game as well. 877-881-1053. What do you got going on here on a Thanksgiving? If you're heading out to the stadium, let us know. How's the tailgating scene like? What do you have to have on that Thanksgiving plate? Maybe your favorite Thanksgiving Day memory. I think this is always a special game, no matter how the Cowboys season is going. I know, Bryan, you brought up your family having seats.
Bit of tradition, yeah.
And I was spoiled. My grandparents had season tickets as well growing up at Texas Stadium. Many memories going to some of those games there, starting with Randy Moss in 98. That game, that was maybe not such a good one, but 2002, Emmett's last Thanksgiving game, was able to be a part of that. Snowed a little bit against the Jets one random Thanksgiving. Terrence Newman had a big pick six in that one. So many great Thanksgiving Day memories, and even as recently as last year, Deron Bland making history with a pick six. Maybe he has his first one of 2024 today. I mean, what are some of the things that really stand out to you for this Cowboys defense? You mentioned Drew Lock, and certainly he's going to help. I mean, Drew Lock is a guy that stepped in for Geno Smith last year, won a Monday night game against Philadelphia, certainly capable of rising up in some big moments. But outside of Malik Neighbors, I remember one of the guys that you keyed on, and he had a big game in the first one, was Wan'Dale Robinson.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right about that. The thing with this Giants offense, I think it really does start with their offensive line, and I mean that in a way of when they have to throw the football. This is where the struggles have been. With Tracy running the football, Tyron Tracy running the football has been outstanding. Averages almost 5 yards. Well, he does, average 5 yards a carry. And when the first time that these two teams met in Week 4, it was Singletary that was the lead back and Tracy was the backup. But now those roles have flipped, and Tracy has done a really, really nice job. But if you can control the Giants in this running game, if you can find a way to not let Tracy just, knock off 5 yard runs all day long, then you're going to make them have to throw the football. And I feel like that they have some skill we were talking about, with Neighbors, but Slayton's a good player. Robinson's their best player run after catch. Everything with Robinson is short of the sticks and then let him go. So you got to be aware about him playing. But this Giants offensive line, it's a big group. It doesn't move really particularly well when it comes to pass blocking. You could see teams that put them on the move or have to deal with movement up front. It's a problem for them. They got a little bit of a light center in John Michael Smith, so sometimes you'll see people put a heavy nose on him or a heavy tackle and take him back. If you watch the way that they gave up sacks all year long, it's been a little bit of like the movement, the power have been some problems, and they've got quarterbacks that have tended to hold the ball. Daniel Jones will hold the ball, and he'll try and climb that pocket, and then he would get sacked. So ball's got to get out quick. I have a feeling today with Drew Lock, it's going to be a combination of running the football and getting the ball out quick. But you've got to take advantage of this Giants offensive line when it turns into Dallas rushing the passer.
Maybe a good opportunity for Mozzie Smith, stack good games on top of each other.
He plays really well against the NFC East opponents. For some reason, you put him against the Giants, the Eagles, or the Commanders, he seems to play pretty well. He had a nice game last week, with the way he was able to step up right off the jump, first snap. And, if you talk about Broaddus, maybe a little bit of a lighter center there.
Yeah.
Here's John Michael Smith's even lighter than what Broaddus is, and, the power that he plays with. Mozzie could be a problem for John Michael Smith if he has to do some blocking that way.
877-881-1053, the number to text here on the official pregame show of your Dallas Cowboys. 469, working at the fire station, rocking with the boys.
There you go.
Go Cowboys. They appreciate everybody who's out there working on a Thanksgiving as well. Zach Wolchuk alongside Bryan Broaddus. We got Brad Shaman here like, what the heck is Zach doing in here? In for Eric Chiafalo today. Eric, of course, worked that Pittsburgh Steelers game for me earlier in the season. Got to go watch the Cowboys get a win there in Pittsburgh at Acrisure Stadium, so owed him one in return.
There you go.
And Thanksgiving cashed in there.
There you go.
On Turkey
As he
Day
told
here.
you yesterday that you had to work today.
It was a little bit more recent than that, but it felt like
Did
it was
feel
yesterday.
like it was 10 minutes before you went on the air today?
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. Luckily, live just next door, right? So I was able to just roll out of bed and just, boom, plop right in to the stadium. If you're going out to the Miller Lite West Plaza today to visit us, we are actually in the glorious Brad Sham radio booth. That is weather condition.
That's home for the day.
In here. It is home for the day. So, unfortunately, won't be able to say hello to you. I know Bryan really enjoys those moments.
Love those
Being
moments.
able to say hello, shake your hand, and sign whatever you have for him. But we are not out there at the Miller Lite West Plaza. Tons to get to. We've got our player profile coming up. Chris Arnold with the leading receiver in terms of receptions in the NFL. CeeDee Lamb. We'll go behind enemy lines with Bob Papa, play-by-play voice of the New York Giants. That's next year on 105.3 The Fan.
Football season is here, but it's still hot, which means pests like ants, roaches, and mosquitoes are out in force. Luckily, you can trust the pros at Arrow Exterminators to keep your home
Shop us in-store or online and start your next adventure at Funtown RV.
Get you set for Cowboys Giants under 3 hours away. Here for a Thanksgiving NFC East matchup. Cowboys looking to make it 8 in a row against the Giants and get their first win here at AT&T Stadium of the 2024 season. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout, Bryan Broaddus, 877-881-1053. The number to text. What are your Thanksgiving Day plans? How are you consuming all of the food? What's on the plate? What's on the Cowboys menu today? We got Bob Papa coming up, play-by-play voice of the New York Giants as we'll go behind enemy lines. But right now it's time for the 3-time Hall of Famer Chris Arnold to catch up with Cowboys receiver CeeDee Lamb with our player profile.
See, you got a short week, but it's a smooth, happy week because that was the craziest game, but it was a good one for the Cowboys against the Washington team.
Right, yeah, no, obviously those are the ones that you always want to make it out of on a victorious side. So for us, everybody's in the locker room happy, cheering, and obviously we were most ecstatic for Turp. Happy that's his come-out party, and I'm happy he gets to show the world what he can do.
What I liked about that game as well is you got to see some guys make some plays. You find out you got some dogs on this team.
Yeah, I mean, I knew it, and I've seen it plenty of years to come. But obviously, it's a great feeling to see those guys show all the work that we put in leading up to this point, and then for them to obviously take full advantage of the opportunity. So I mean, I'm a huge fan of it.
Tell me this, you always play to win. You've always said that from day one. So, like you said, one game at a time, you're stacking them up. Here come the Giants today. The Giants kind of beat too. They got some adversity going in their locker room. How does the Giants team look to you guys as far as a foe, a divisional foe, the whole 9 yards?
We're very used to them. Obviously, they're a common opponent. We see them twice a year. So, as for us, man, we just got to come out and do what we do. We got to play. We got to put together and obviously keep Coop clean, and that's on the opposite side. Defense, obviously, they got to do what they got to do, stop them and give us the ball back. We got to make most of our opportunities.
Give me an evaluation from wide receiver to wide receiver and Neighbors. He looked like a nice receiver out there.
That's my dog. That's my dog. Literally, like we work out every offseason. I mean, I worked out with him this past offseason with my trainer, and I plan on doing it again and again and again. I love young talent. My dog, he's a dog. Obviously, he's from Louisiana, so just having them roots and them ties, and then his ambition for the game. He loves to win as well, but obviously, I love to see young talent, man. Yep. He's phenomenal.
Let's talk about today. It is Thanksgiving. How many tickets you have to come up with? How much family's coming down? What's today like for you? After the game, you getting back to the house? What's going on?
Yeah, man, it's a packed house today for sure. After this game, hopefully come home with this turkey leg. Yep. And do what we got to do on the field before, but post, I'm definitely eating good.
And what is your favorite Thanksgiving dinner? I mean, turkey? Is it the sweet potato pie? What?
I'm a ham type of guy. I love the sweet potato pie, potato salad.
Yep.
Hey, listen, just stack me up. Stack me up, Grandma.
All right, good luck this afternoon.
Appreciate you.
CeeDee Lamb.
There he is, CeeDee Lamb, with the 3-time Hall of Famer Chris Arnold here for our player profile. And absolutely, CeeDee, who has 77 catches on the year. He joined Jarvis Landry as the only player in NFL history with at least 70 receptions in each of his first 5 seasons, and those 77 receptions right now leading the National Football League. Saw that this week, and I think CeeDee was actually asked about this as well, Bryan, in the locker room. He was surprised to hear that as well. I mean, quietly leading the league in receptions right now.
Yeah, he is, and really had to do this with no help on the outside for him. You know, you haven't seen the elevation. You know, Cooks being hurt, Tolbert trying to kind of, grow in the position. They've used Brooks, they've used others, but he's really been. Ferguson hasn't been as what we thought maybe that Jake Ferguson was going to be. So it has really been very much CeeDee Lamb having to do things on his own. We saw last week he had 10 receptions. I would not be surprised again today. He mentioned going and getting that turkey leg. That's for your MVP, the old John Madden way of acknowledging the best player of the game. But I would not be surprised today with him working against Banks that he has that same type of number today.
Now, Cooks will be back today, in case you missed that. So that will be, you finally get Brandon Cooks back in the lineup. But CeeDee has been brilliant. He brought up Kevontae Turpin, who has made some big plays as a receiver, but in the special teams last week was outstanding, had the 99-yard kickoff return for a touchdown, the spin move that will live on in Cowboys history, and then was Special Teams Player of the Week.
Yeah, and this is what's about to happen now, okay? And this is where, as opponents down the road here, he's not going to get a chance to return kicks anymore. They're just going to kick the ball out of the end zone, and it's going to be at the 30. Why? I mean, look what he did last week against the Commanders. It wasn't just the big return.
Right.
He was bringing the ball out past the 35, bringing it, with this new way of kicking off, all he has to do is beat the first line, make one miss, make two miss, and now he's at the 50-yard line or he's scoring. If I'm a head coach of a team that's playing the Cowboys and my special teams coach kicks the ball to him on a kickoff, you're fired.
You're out of here.
You're fired. I'm going to take over special teams duties today because I am not going to let him turn the game. You look what they did on special teams last week. I mean, the special teams came up with 20 of their points last week. You got one of the best kickers in the league, and you've got a guy that every time you kick it to him, the potential of the ball coming all the way back. I'm not kicking him any more balls. So he's going to have to do things maybe on a punt return or maybe even, the offensive snaps. That slant we saw, got to get him more involved. I'm not talking about just throwing in bubble screens or balls at the, 5 yards down the field. I'm talking about getting him more involved, letting him run some routes. We saw in the Atlanta game, made some in cuts. He's not the biggest guy. We all know that. But put the ball on him and let him go. But if you kick the ball to him on a kickoff, you're fired.
You're fired. No turkey for you. The slant for a touchdown against the Texans right here in the last home game. Certainly the speed is absolutely undeniable there with Kevontae Turpin. 877-881-1053. What are you thinking about today's Cowboys-Giants game on Thanksgiving, and what are your Thanksgiving plans with the family? What is on that plate? Bryan, I heard CeeDee was just mentioning ham over the turkey. Are you ham over turkey, or you
I'm a combination of both, and I said this on our show the other day on the G-Bag Nation. I feel like the ham is like a backup because what happens is you have the turkey, but how about like every time, I got to have that turkey sandwich for that night game and all that, or a snack later on. No, go to the ham. Friday. Go to the ham.
Yeah.
You've already eaten your turkey. Go to that auxiliary ham that you have. And kind of use your mayonnaise, your mustard, whatever you want to use, your bread. If you want to make your own damn bread, do that. That's a great way of, doing stuff.
You're all about the homemade bread.
I'm all about scratch.
Yeah.
And if you do scratch, I feel like it's worth your time.
Absolutely.
But, yeah, absolutely. Have that auxiliary ham ready to go.
All right, let's go ahead and pause 10 seconds to allow stations to identify themselves across the Dallas Cowboys radio network here on 105.3 The Fan.
Your turn it on, leave it on. Home of America's team is 105.3 The Fan.
Hello, baby.
KRLD-FM and HD1, Dallas-Fort Worth.
An Odyssey sports station.
But now it's time to go behind enemy lines as we catch up with the legendary voice of the New York Giants, the great Bob Papa.
Tracy checks in for Singletary. He's the lone setback. Jones on his helmet with one on the play clock. He gives it to Tracy, trying the left side of the offensive line. Breaks out of a tackle. Into space, 20. Tracy down the middle, 10. Tracy at the 5. Touchdown, Giants. Oh, Tyrone Tracy took it the distance from 32 yards. And with 8:54 to go here in Munich in the third, the Giants are right back in this ballgame.
Really good read and cut by Tyrone Tracy to cut it back, open hole, and outran everybody into the end zone. Offensive line won the battle, and Tyrone Tracy finished it off. Little outside zone, everybody going left. They over-pursued. Nobody's got the backside. When he cut it back, nobody there to make the tackle. Great run by Tyrone Tracy.
Phenomenal analysis there. Now, Bob, can we confirm or deny here that may or may not have been you on
that was
call?
Westwood 1.
Yeah.
That was not me. Phil Sims on the analysis, who's actually here right now because he's doing Westwood 1 for today's game, the national broadcast.
There we go.
So
at least there was a giant great on the call there. But unfortunately, that was not you. But, Bob, how are you? Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for giving us some time.
Second time in 3 years. Great to be here.
Yeah.
I love being here. I used to do the Westwood 1 games in the early 2000s here. And Mr. Jones and the Jones family certainly know how to take care of the media when it comes to the spread.
Right.
Knowing that everybody's got to work on this day because it is second to none. So I appreciate that hospitality.
Well, Bob, no pressure. Visiting radio booth this season, 5-0 in games.
Yeah, I know. I know. Visiting radio booth has watched, on average, the visiting team scoring 37 points per game.
Yeah.
And their visiting radio booth has watched their defense limit the Cowboys to 13.8 per game. 13.8 points per game.
Sure.
Giants score less than 14 points a game for the season, so something's got to give.
Well, if it is Drew Lock, which is the report so far, maybe you can add more to that, but does that give the Giants a better chance then to maybe get that 30-plus points?
I don't know. I mean, it's tough when you haven't played since the preseason, and the last time he played in the preseason, he got hurt. He's going to make his first start in over a year. Has never played against the Cowboys. Now, his last start was a win with Seattle over Philadelphia. Look, I think for the Giants in this game, they've given up over 1,000 yards rushing in the last 6 games. Yeah. It's 174 yards a game. And I know Dallas is 31st in rushing offense. I couldn't believe that the Cowboys' longest run this year was Dak Prescott's 22 yards. They have nobody over 20 yards.
Yeah, I didn't want to hear your crying earlier about watching some bad football because we've watched our share of some bad football today. You know?
Well, wait a second. You got 4 wins, though.
I mean,
hey, that win in Pittsburgh was awesome.
It seemed like it was like in 2016.
Yeah.
It felt, but no, last week's game was crazy. I mean, and I trust me, it was, it's nice to get these wins and stuff, but I kind of feel like we've got 2 really desperate football teams here. And I mean, desperate in the way of Dallas, needing to try and keep on, but what's going on with the Giants with all maybe the things internally there? Does a win even help that situation?
Well, winning always helps.
Yeah, it's
winning
great deodorant.
It's a great deodorant. Yeah, I mean, it's been crazy here with the Daniel Jones situation.
Sure.
And we all knew, there's some national narratives to this, but the reality is it's not the 70s and 80s and 60s anymore where you bench your starting quarterback. Now there's like huge salary cap ramifications, and he had that injury clause. So you knew whenever he was going to get benched, if things went sideways, that at some point he was going to go from number 1 to number 3 and never put the uniform on again because you can't run the risk of being on the hook for that injury clause. So, hey, maybe could they have done it at the beginning of the bye week, and then not had it game day week?
Right.
Maybe. But it's all 2020 hindsight at this point. They're rolling with the guys that they're rolling with, and we'll see if they can exploit a Dallas defense that has been just horrible this year.
Right. You mentioned about just being around and watching the Giants for so many years, a lot of pride on the defensive side of the ball with run defense, go all the way back with Parcells and stuff like that. But what has been the issue with the run defense? It's such a, you're having to deal with that defensive tackle. And so, I mean, what has been the issue with the Giants on run defense?
I think they miss A'Shawn Robinson, who they did not re-sign, who's actually having a monster year in Carolina. Even though they're bad as a team, he's playing really well. In fact, he forced a fumble in the Giants' loss in Germany. He forced the Tyrone Tracy fumble in overtime in the first snap of overtime. I think the guys that they've expected to step up in his stead have not necessarily performed. So you're putting a lot of pressure on Dexter Lawrence. You'll see it today. He'll be double and triple teamed almost every
snap.
Mm-hmm. And then I think there's this period of trying to get guys to fit properly in a new scheme defensively.
Right.
So they have a new defensive coordinator. And I think the thing that really is, it's not being out-physicaled. I know there's been a lot of stuff on social media about some effort from last week's game, but I don't see it that as much as I see a lot of mental mistakes.
Okay.
I see if your job is to set the edge, a guy taking an inside move. They've been so susceptible on these zone runs on the outside.
Right.
And guys just not being mentally focused to I hate to use this Belichick line, do your job.
Do your job.
But it really is, and it feels like a lot of these breakdowns have been mental that have led to these big gashing runs against them.
Bob Papa, as we go behind enemy lines here, the Giants play-by-play announcer. When it comes to the coaching staff right now, and that's conversations we've been having here in Dallas with Mike McCarthy and his future, but Brian Daboll and some of the comments you alluded to with the soft, the lack of effort, you're not seeing quit from the team. I know we haven't seen that on our side either.
No, there's nothing. I mean, listen, when teams are getting their brains beaten in, as they were last week, there's going to be a natural letdown.
Sure.
And I think there's a lot of frustration baked into it. I think soft can mean a lot of different things. And Dexter Lawrence said we played soft today. He didn't mean the team was soft. And I think he meant it more from a mental standpoint. Like we are just not executing. And unfortunately for this team, and maybe it's because last year it feels like if they get down early, that it becomes like an avalanche effect. It's really weird because, you think about what happened in Seattle to them earlier this year where they went on this 10-minute drive and they're just dominating the Seahawks. And then Eric Gray fumbles going in. Rayshon Jenkins picks it up and goes 100 yards.
Right.
So you're dominating the game and you're losing 7-0.
Right.
They bounced back beautifully and they wound up winning that football game. Even the game they won in Cleveland. I mean, Eric Gray fumbled the opening kickoff. And on one snap, Amari Cooper caught a touchdown pass. And it was like 7-0. And the Giants didn't even blink.
Right.
It feels like as of late, when things start to go awry, it's just like they lose confidence in themselves.
Yeah, I tell you what, that's a hard thing to have to deal with a team. And you've got some young players on offense.
Yeah, it's the youngest roster in the league.
Yeah, it's crazy. I tell you what, I'm an LSU guy, so neighbors, I understand. I mean, like the last time that we talked with you in week 4, we were talking about the LSU connection and wide receivers at the Giants. But talk about Tracy and what he's done with the running. I mean, when we faced you guys last time, Singletary was primary and then Tracy's back, but that seems to be switched now.
Absolutely. This is a guy that was a running back all through high school. Then he went to Purdue, and he wound up being a wide receiver.
Right.
But he said, he goes, I've always been a running back at heart. And then he played 1 year at running back. He's shifty. He's elusive. Looks like he's pretty smart. He's not scared to stick his nose in there on blitz pickup, which is unheard of for rookies. And he's got a burst. And I think they really stumbled upon something good in the 5th round because he brings a little bit more of a dynamic. I mean, he leads all NFL rookie running backs.
That's what's crazy.
Rushing.
Yeah.
Bucky Irving of the Buccaneers, who we saw last week, who's very talented, is second behind him. But I think he gives them a nice spark. I think they need Neighbors to do more. And so what I mean by that is, obviously he's been targeted a lot, and he's got 67 receptions. But we're still waiting for him to make a guy miss. And get yards after the catch. And some of it you could say is, well, the ball placement, and they haven't given him a chance. But then there's been other chances where he just really has it. There was a play last week on a cross where you thought maybe he's going to shake a guy and go. Turned out to be a 12-yard gain. We'll take it any day of the week.
Right.
But we're still looking for that explosiveness, that something special.
Sure.
And we haven't seen it. And he's been very frustrated by a lot of things here this year. But, hopefully today against Dallas, he'll be able to kind of shine a little bit.
What's the health with your offensive line today? It's just kind of it's been
no bueno.
The left tackle spot's been really a nightmare there, huh?
Yeah, I mean, Andrew Thomas got hurt. They rotated a couple guys in. Finally, they moved Illuminor from right tackle to left tackle.
Right.
And it took a game adjustment for him. And now he suffered a quad injury, so he's not playing.
Right.
And it's too bad because he really wanted to play in the game. There's some guys who they get hurt when you're 2-9, and you're like, that might not be a heavy rush.
Yeah.
He's like really passionate about it. He grew up a big Giants fan because he was in London as a kid when the Giants and Dolphins played for the first time. He wears 72 in honor of Osi Umenyiora.
Right.
And the guy really cares a lot, and it's unfortunate he can't make the game today. So now they're going to have Chris Hubbard, who they signed off the Niners practice squad. Evan Neal, their first-round draft pick from 3 years ago.
It looks like he's playing a little better from the tape that I was seeing.
He is.
Yeah.
He's definitely, he suffered an injury. It was kind of a train wreck for him, and then they kind of worked him back slowly.
Right.
And when he got his opportunity a couple of weeks ago, he's actually done pretty well.
Yeah, listen,
again, the social media mob. They can you can put up any play and watch a guy get beat in this league.
How about the other 65?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think
that's the life of a lineman.
Yeah, I think Evan Neal's doing okay. I think he's doing all right.
Bob, it is Thanksgiving after all. What is the ideal Bob Papa Thanksgiving plate?
I'm going to go make one right now. Yeah. Press him. No, I like the the turkey and the gravy and the stuffing. I love, like, when I'm home, the homemade cranberry. Yeah. The stuff in the jars, the can
with the ridges.
Yeah,
not for you.
Even the one that they try to make look like homemade. Yeah, it's not the same thing. And the sweet potatoes, I don't go crazy with anything, but I always like to save room for the second stuffing and gravy.
Did you get a chance to go to your place last night?
Nick and Sam's, we were there.
I know you were. Is the son with you on this trip?
No, he's not here.
He's not with you. Okay.
Yeah, we made the pilgrimage last night. We had a table of 10.
There you go.
It was good, and we ordered some for the table. Yeah. We ordered the red velvet cake and the carrot cake. I mean, they're gigantic,
They're gigantic, right?
So I put them in the refrigerator at the hotel, which, by the way, we stayed at the Lowe's.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Tisch family knows how to put a hotel together.
Yeah, there you go.
And I'm not saying that just because they own the team.
No. They're good owners, though, too.
Yeah. So we put it in the fridge, and then I brought it for the equipment guys in the locker room when we got here today. So have a little feast.
Thank you so much, man. Enjoy
guys,
the
happy
game.
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, sir.
And, hopefully, hopefully we get an entertaining game, right?
Yes. If it's like last week's game, hold on to your rear.
Yeah, we'll take.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Be fun fourth quarter.
Yeah, be fun
legendary.
Fourth quarter. Yeah.
Thank you, Bob.
All right. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. There he goes, Bob Papa, your legendary play-by-play voice for the New York Giants as we continue to get you set for Cowboys and Giants Thanksgiving here at AT&T Stadium. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl scout, Bryan Broaddus. We'll go inside the star with our buddy Bobby Belt next here on 105.3 The Fan.
And we're going to overtime.
Erica, how much have I spent on concessions?
For questions about their money. The official milk of the Dallas Cowboys, the official milk of your family table.
About to go inside the Star with our Cowboys insider Bobby Belch here on the official pregame show of your Dallas Cowboys. Still a little over 2 hours away from kickoff as we broadcast here live in the Brad Sham radio booth at AT&T Stadium. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl champion scout Bryan Broaddus. Cowboys looking to make it 8 in a row against the New York Giants today. 877-881-1053. What do you got going on with your Thanksgiving, food-wise, Cowboys predictions, and more? But right now, let's bring in Bobby Belt. And Bobby, how the heck you doing? Happy Thanksgiving. What is on the top of your Cowboys' mind?
Happy Thanksgiving. What's on the top of my Cowboys' mind right now is this this hit fell at a really unfortunate point because just now, right when we were coming back on the air, that's just when Trayvon Diggs took the field to warm up to see if he'll be able to go today. So he's out there right now. I think he was down there with Al Harris, so he'll go through drills with Al Harris and Britt Brown, I'm sure, and they'll figure out if he's ready to play. But he was one who felt like he was genuinely kind of 50-50, and they were just going to test it out and see how it felt. And depending on how it went, it would determine if he was playing or not today.
Drew Lock scare you today for the Giants?
A little bit. I think that they've found clearly some level of comfort with Tommy DeVito in terms of like how to just get by in a game with Tommy DeVito, it feels like.
Yeah. Or how to lose it.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. But like in general, they found that comfort zone of just like we can at least get by. It's not disastrous. We're not going to turn the ball over a bunch. We know how to do this. Drew Lock may turn the ball over, but Drew Lock may throw for 400 yards.
It absolutely can.
There's a boom or bust factor with Locke out there that's
better. Colt McCoy coming in this situation. Remember that time on a Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
I'd say yes.
Probably fair. I mean, boom factor probably a little more than Colt. Bust factor a little more than Colt McCoy. But I mean, absolutely, Drew Lock is a guy who he stepped in and I mean he did it to the Eagles last year, right? With the Seahawks. Yeah. He stepped in and made some big throws, and so Drew Lock is definitely somebody who I think there's more concern about, and so he's somebody who absolutely can hurt the Cowboys if he gets time.
Why does he seem so bad at home?
Is
that even a fair question?
I mean, it's a fair question. It's just I don't know if there's a good answer.
Is it more
like
so
it's a little bit like
they've been so good for so long at home,
right? So it's like, what is the meaning of life? Like,
schedule?
I have no idea. No, because I mean. No.
I'm telling you, if you play the Saints now, you probably beat them.
You probably do, but I mean, you're talking about a team,
You're
Dallas,
not going to beat the Ravens or the Eagles,
what was
probably, right?
It was probably not, but I mean, the Ravens are so inconsistent in their secondary and will do some different things. The thing with this is Dak is, from the time, like I think it's 2019 on, home games that Dak played in, they were averaging leading into the season like 38 points a game at home. Yeah. They've never struggled to score. Even if you're going to tell me, well, the defense has been bad. Fine. The offense has never struggled here. And so I don't know what the issue is in terms of offensively for them because that stuff was cropping up well before Dak had gone out. But, yeah, it's just for a long time it was, it feels similar to the question of, like, what happens to Amari Cooper on the road? I don't know. I wish I knew. I wish there was a good answer to it. But, no, I think that it's probably partly bad draw, a team that's a little more disappointing than you originally thought. But yeah, I mean, it's certainly they scored 24 against San Francisco on the road, even though they lost. They've played better on the road, so yeah, it's tough.
Here's my unfair question for you today.
Mm-hmm.
You asked Jerry Jones a question this week about Mike McCarthy and his job status.
Mm-hmm.
Were you satisfied with his answer?
Sure.
And re-say how you asked it and what the answer was.
Yeah, just that.
People just listen.
Just that he came on and gave a lot of praise to the coaching staff right out of the gate, unsolicited, and then it was a good job of the coaching staff last week, and so we had thrown to him.
Mike Solari, I'd been giving him a lot of grief about the line. Played really well with the guys they had the back. You got to be fair about that.
Absolutely, and Mike McCarthy had a good day. I thought.
Absolutely, yeah.
Mike Zimmer, everybody, and so I just said, is it crazy to think that? But when we get to the end of this thing. We're looking at it, and there's a contract extension for Mike McCarthy at the end. He said, "No, that's not crazy."
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the fair way to say it. I'm satisfied with the answer because I think what Jerry said was like, I haven't made any decisions.
Right.
I don't think he was saying like, man, we're leaning towards this direction. We're doing this. In fact, he made a point to say my body language has not indicated anything either way about what we're thinking.
But he did say early in the year the scheme and things like that that bothered him, and that
needed to be better.
And needed to be better, and that was a reflection of Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, and
so I could see he's like maybe balancing things out here, maybe balancing out a little bit. Yeah.
How much, if anything, does it change for you? They win today. Cowboys at 5-7, 2 wins in a row. You look at the schedule moving forward. I mean, that was also something Jerry wasn't. Hey, we're not quite out of this thing yet.
Yeah, I mean, look, they just finished a stretch of 9 games in a row where they had, I think, 7 teams above 500 in there, and then you had 6 of those 7 would be playoff teams if the playoffs started today, and 4 of those teams are 8-win teams or more. So they've gone through a really tough gauntlet. Today is the beginning of 4 straight games against teams below 500. So I mean, they feel like, look, if we win today, we're 3-1 within the division. We haven't lost. We're 4-2 on the road. You'll take a 4-2 road record at this point of the season. Any team would on the road. It's just the home record is what's been troubling for them. But look, do I think this is a playoff team or team that's going to put? No, I don't. But they have not. Lost their way. They haven't quit.
On that guy.
They're not hanging their heads.
Yeah.
They're still very positive. And a lot of what you hear a couple weeks ago, a lot of what you would hear from guys were like, we're getting better. We haven't played all our division games yet. Like there's still margins here. And so they're certainly not giving anything up. I think it's similar to what Eric Kendricks told you guys this week, where he said, after being part of that and the Minneapolis Miracle and everything else, you can't, give up anything until it's done. And so because of that kind of thought process, I think a lot of guys in that locker room are taking the same approach to the season, saying there's nothing that's been ruled out yet, so we're not going to just stop.
Who gets the MVP turkey leg today?
Ooh.
Say it's a Dallas victory.
Okay, if it's a Dallas victory, Micah. That's an easy one, right? Micah comes in here, wrecks shop a little bit with Drew Lock wanting to drop back and throw the ball a bunch. So we'll say Micah gets it.
As a lifelong Cowboy fan like Bryan and myself, do you have a favorite Thanksgiving Day memory?
I mean, there's always the first one I remember is the Garrett game.
What, the one against Green Bay?
Yeah,
why
that's not a good one.
up?
That's not a good one for you.
God, it's a horrible
It's
game.
been texting a couple of times.
But I mean, honestly, some of the games that I remember, probably Romo against Tampa Bay, the 5-touchdown game. That was a big one. A lot of the ones I remember, though, were just like, I remember Ron Dane running for a big gain for Denver and screwing things up, and Miami coming in here with Jay Fiedler and beating you by 20. But the Romo game against Tampa was that was a big one that I think was a one that stands out just because it was like, oh, this isn't just like a flavor of the week thing. He's really
he's
good.
lighting them up.
Real momentum. Yeah. Thank you, Bobby. We appreciate you.
I love you all.
Love you more. There he goes, Bobby Bell, our Cowboys insider here. Brought to you by Aristocrat, the creators of Buffalo Casino Games, bringing Cowboys-themed casino games. Kickoff with America's team. On and off the reels with Cowboys-themed casino games. Developed by Aristocrat, a proud sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys. If you got a gambling problem, please contact 1-800-GAMBLER for 21 and over. All right, we'll talk with Babe Laufenberg. We got Mike Pereira, our rules expert from Fox Sports. Of course, we'll get the scoop from Christy Scales. So much more coming up on the official pregame of your Dallas Cowboys next year on The Fan.
Ho, ho, ho. Visiting from the North Pole, Santa has touched down. Podcasts and up-to-the-minute blogging at DallasCowboys.com and on the official Dallas Cowboys app.
Getting you set for Cowboys-Giants now just under 2 hours away from kickoff on 105.3 The Fan. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Bryan Broaddus, 16-0 right now in the second half. Lions leading the Bears, of course, of halftime. Here you'll get Laney Wilson as the halftime performance. We'll talk with Christy Scales about that a little bit later. But right now, let's talk with our buddy, Babe Laufenberg, who joins us here live in the booth. Babe, happy Thanksgiving, sir.
And right back at you guys.
So it looks like it will be Drew Lock today for the New York Giants. Tommy DeVito, I guess, is going to try it out. He's probably testing out right now in warm-ups. For all indications, Drew Lock will start for the Giants. Your thoughts there, Babe, and maybe how it improves or hurts their offense?
Well, I'll go back a little ways here, and it's John Madden Thanksgiving celebration. The league is doing it, third year. There's all sorts of different things that are going to go on along with that. But
I remember early on in my broadcast career, I was just getting started, and John Madden was at the Cowboys practice. It was at Valley Ranch, and they obviously Summerall Madden doing the game that Sunday, and he said to me, hey, babe, take the media guide, and a week after it's printed, throw it away. And I was like, what are you, crazy? It was like the Bible then. We didn't have the internet, right? So if you wanted to learn about a team, you went to the media guide and you looked up stuff. And a few weeks into it, maybe a month, I realized what he was saying, because here's the deal. I looked at Cowboys' Week 4 game against the Giants, trying to get a feel for Daniel Jones, and there is no Daniel Jones. He's in Minnesota. So I go back and I look at Tommy DeVito and how he played against the Cowboys. And now, to your point, it looks like it's not going to be Tommy DeVito. It's going to be Drew Lock. So I go back and I look at Drew Lock last year when he played for Seattle, December game, Monday Night Football, and beat Philadelphia. But I've always thought Drew Lock was a talented guy, and I've always been a little surprised that he kind of hasn't landed somewhere. Of course, he got caught up with the Russell Wilson trade. He was sent to Seattle when Wilson came to Denver, and he just hasn't found his footing really as an NFL quarterback, but I think he's a talented thrower.
Babe, what has Mike Zimmer found the last few weeks that's allowed that defense to play a little bit better for the Cowboys?
I think he found number 11.
Mm-hmm.
When Micah Parsons came back, it's like, I don't mind coordinating this defense, but Mike has obviously been a huge part of what they've done. And it's not even so much the numbers that he puts up. It's just, he's going to garner double teams and triple teams, and that's freeing other guys up to go one-on-one with their assignment. So that's been a big deal. I'm sure both the players are getting a feel for Mike Zimmer and the way he wants things done, and Mike Zimmer's getting a feel for the players a little bit, what they can and cannot do. Huge bump last week from Josh Butler.
Yes.
That corner has been a liability since Deron Bland has been out, and all of a sudden, Josh Butler made it not a liability anymore. He played great.
How tough is this 4-day turnaround here, babe?
Very tough. As you guys know, I mean, it was funny. Bob Thomas, our statistician last week, we were getting on the plane, and on Sunday of last week, Cowboys had 7 games remaining, and we're going to finish up this evening, and they're going to have 5.
Right.
And we've only had 4 days on the calendar, so it is tough. They're all beat up. It's an achievement just to get to the next week when you have a week off, and so to sit here 4 days later, and you're going to see more guys out than would ordinarily be out. If they had until Sunday to heal up, more guys probably would be playing. Tommy DeVito, probably a good example. He's got some type of forearm injury, bruise of some type. Sunday, he'd probably be able to go.
Babe, I don't know if you know this, but I'll ask the question anyway. At right guard, which direction you think that they might go, Hoffman or Bass, or do you know which one they're going to go with?
I think they're going to go Hoffman, and I thought T.J. Bass played very well. I thought the whole offensive line played well last week. I mean, the pass protection for Cooper Rush was great.
Yeah.
He had time to throw. He had a clean pocket to throw from for the most part. But I think they'll stick with Hoffman. McCarthy seems to be a guy that, as we well know, likes continuity, and I think since Hoffman started there last week, I think if it was a situation where the left guard position was available and Zach Martin was able to play today, which he's not, I think probably be T.J. Bass at left guard. So I think we're going to see Hoffman.
I'm going to let Eric ask you about Rudy next week. I know he's been very eager about that, babe.
Yes,
but I
the
think,
movie.
I've made the case. I got a lot of hate for this. I think it might be one of the more overrated sports movies.
Well, I'll have to save it for Eric because he was the one that chastised me for never having seen Rudy. And as I put in a text to you, Zach Wolchuk, it was like you had said, I've never seen The Godfather.
Yeah.
I understand the reaction when you say, I never saw The Godfather. I'd be like, what? But he had that reaction for Rudy. So, we'll talk to Eric next week.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That's must-tune-in radio. Now, the Giants, of course, they move on from Daniel Jones. They decided not to re-sign Saquon Barkley. Barkley is having a career-best season there with the Eagles. Certainly just set records this past Monday night. But, I mean, should we be facing a Saquon Barkley in a Giants uniform today, babe?
Well, it's funny because you look at what Saquon Barkley has done this year. He's averaged 6.2 a carry. was the player of the week for the 4th week this season. They've only played 11 games. But if he were at the Giants, he would not be the Saquon Barkley we're seeing.
No.
To that point, he averaged 3.9 a carry last year. 3.9 with the Giants.
Yeah.
So is he a great player? Yes. Would he have been a great player on this team? He would have been their best player, but he wouldn't have been doing nearly what he's doing with Philadelphia. So, I mean, yeah, obviously, yeah, would you like to have him? Absolutely. But it's funny, too, you talk about Daniel Jones. There's a real symmetry to these things, and you kind of saw it with Washington last year. Ron Rivera fired his offensive coordinator going into that season, fired his defensive coordinator during the season, and then Ron Rivera got fired at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Wink Martindale, defensive coordinator for the Giants last year, got fired. I think he was happy to get fired, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Dable took over play calling duties from Mike Kafka this year. They fired their quarterback, and at the end of this year, I'd be surprised if Dable was still the head coach of the Giants.
Babe, you get a player like Malik Neighbors, who very outspoken last week, and a lot of it frustration, the way that they lost and maybe the way the season's gone. Do you mentioned Brian Daboll? Does he just? I mean, the first time in Week 4 you play these guys, you loaded up throwing him the football. Does this get even more pronounced this week with Malik Neighbors getting the ball here?
I think so. And the big thing is getting it early. I wouldn't have been happy. Hey, who would be happy if you were the head coach or the coach at all up there with the Giants and guys are calling you out? The other thing I found a little interesting. Malik Neighbors missed a couple games. Remember, he was concussed at the end of the Cowboys game. Missed 2 games. He's leading the NFL in targets per game. He's averaging 11.5 targets a game. So it's not like they're not trying to get him the ball. They clearly are. So, yeah, it was frustration. It was a young guy, and it was something that you probably didn't see a while back when a rookie decides he's going to pop off, after a loss. But it's, hey, we've all been there. If you've ever played on any team at any level and you're losing, the frustration sets in, and it clearly set in last week for the New York Giants.
Well, let's hope to keep their frustration going with the Cowboy victory today. Thank you, Babe. We'll catch up with you soon.
Okay, thank you, guys. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving. There he is, Babe Laufenberg. Of course, you'll be hearing him on the call with Brad Sham and Christy Scales. Today's game between the Giants and the Cowboys at AT&T Stadium. It's brought to you by Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. Pregame show continues. We got Fox Sports' Mike Pereira, rules analyst, today, going to be joining us. And then, of course, we'll go around the NFC East and the NFL, update you on the other game that's going on here on 105.3 The Fan.
Hey y'all, Matt Pittman of Meat Church here. With football season kicking off, I'm already gearing up to bring the smoker back to AT&T Stadium for some epic tailgates. But with that Texas heat, it's crucial to keep my beer hand cramping cold. That's where Yeti's insulated Colster can cooler comes in clutch. This year, you can even get them with the iconic star engraved on the side.
Terms and conditions apply. See nature'sOwnBread.com/tickets for more details and official rules.
Under 2 hours away, kickoff here at AT&T Stadium. Cowboys looking to make it 8 in a row against the Giants, get their first home win, and send everybody happy on Turkey Day. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout, Bryan Broaddus, here on the official pregame show of your Dallas Cowboys. And right now, it's time to welcome in rules analyst, Fox Sports, Mike Pereira, who will be on the call alongside Kevin Burkhardt and Tom Brady. Mike, happy Thanksgiving, sir. How are you today?
I will tell you, it's great to be back here because I had to take the year off last year due to back surgery, and to be back in Dallas for Thanksgiving Day football, I could not feel better and more thankful.
Do you have a favorite Thanksgiving Day memory? I mean, you've been doing this a long time, Mike. Is there a moment, a game, anything that stands out to you?
Yeah, mine was my first year in the league office. So we're talking about 1998 when Phil Luckett in the Steelers game, the coin
that
toss.
game. There you go.
Yeah, that was like, and they had given me the opportunity my first year to go home for Thanksgiving. So I was watching the game at home, watching the toss. And all of a sudden, like, the turkey looked small to me. I didn't know what the heck happened, and all I knew was we were going to have turmoil by the time I got back to the league office. And that's probably the one memory that I'll always keep with me is the Phil Luckett coin toss.
Wow, what a memory that we all shared there that day. Hey, Mike, I wanted to ask you about the way that officials operate pregame with the coaches, because we have a player here with Tyler Guyton, the left tackle, who, if you look at the crew last week and you kind of do the metrics on them, they were one of these crews that had called, lining up deep, in the backfield. They had made those calls the previous 10 games that they had worked. How does that work if the officials are looking at film? Do they go in and tell Mike McCarthy, hey, listen, your left tackle lines up deep? How does that mechanics work before a game with officials and a head coach?
Well, generally they don't do that. They have points of emphasis, and they get video from the league office every week. And that tells them what areas that they're concerned with, whether it is formations, whether it's illegal contact, which there was some video that went out for this week about allowing too much illegal contact beyond 5 yards. I never wanted to put anything in the mindset of the officials about a single player, because what happens if you're an official and you're getting graded, then subconsciously you're going to call things that don't need to be called. That's just the nature of the beast, and it goes with holding, not just with formations. If you say, Chiefs, watch number 74, he has a tendency to grab, boom, that flag's going to come out quickly, because that's what's in your mind. So I think mindsets are really difficult, and we all know that coaches and teams scout officials, which rightfully so, they should do that, because you're talking about 120 some odd individuals, and trying to get each one of those to see things consistently the same is really pretty difficult. So you have to be ready to adapt to maybe a crew that calls it a little bit tighter. I remember that Jerry Markwright, the referee, the coaches used to tell me, they would tell their teams, don't breathe on the quarterback, because Markwright will call it. And so they do their own scouting like that. You wish you didn't have to do that. At least I wish they wouldn't have to do that. But consistency when it comes to judgment, how far is he lined back? Is he lined up back? Is he just beyond the rear of the? Is he not? Is it contact before the ball arrives with pass interference? Judgment is very tough to make consistent, and you just have to deal with that. But it's preconceived notions are really dangerous when it comes to me, and I don't think the league does that.
Yeah, I kind of always remember back in the day when I was in Green Bay, Chad Brown would let you play. When you started talking about holding calls and stuff like that, we would talk to our guys about, listen, let's be smart here. this official, he was with Ed Hockley and stuff like that, so you kind of had an idea.
Get away with a little more?
You get away with a little more with Chad Brown calling the game for you there.
Yeah, and I remember, too, that I remember when Parcells was here, when he came back into coaching, he told me, you're going to love that I'm coaching again because I will never call you. I don't want a coach to ever think that an official had anything to do with the outcome of a game. Sure. I don't want a player to think that. And he said, so you're never going to get coaches' questions from me. You're never going to get any complaints from me. And then one day, he called me. And he said, I need to talk about Chad Brown. And I thought, oh, my God, is it his holding calls? And I'm not, what could this possibly be? He said to me, he's going to get killed out there. He's not moving very well. He's in the way. We can't run our pick patterns across the field. I said, well, you're not supposed to run pick patterns off the umpire. And if you're going to use the umpire, use one that's not as big as Chad, for God's sake.
Chad's big. Chad was good.
Big.
Chad, Bill Walsh. Bill Walsh got to love Chad Brown standing in the middle of that field the way that the West Coast offense can run those inside routes.
Right.
Chad was a monster out there in the middle of that field.
Right.
Fox Sports' Mike Pereira with us here on The Fan. Mike, last week, that Cowboys-Washington game, certainly it was a special teams day to remember, but the big deal coming into the season was the new kickoff rules. Now that we're over halfway through the season, overall, your thoughts, how's this going? Does the NFL seem to be liking it?
It's here to stay. I mean, that I feel very strongly about because the injury stats are positive. And that's the main reason they wanted the kickoff back game, but they wanted it safe. Now, you're at 31% of kickoffs are returned at this point, maybe a little bit under what they were hoping for. So instead of dumping it, I think they'll make some tweaks. And the tweaks that we're thinking mostly they might do is take the touchback, which puts it at the 30, and then move that touchback to the 35. Ooh. And that will encourage more people to kick it short in the end zone. And then maybe move the kickoff line back from the 35 to the 30 and make it a little tougher. But it is here to stay. And, it's kind of like, I really felt that after about week 5, nobody would say anything about the funky look of the formation and all that kind of stuff. And the players still when the ball's in play, but you want the kickoff back in the game. What Turpin did last week was just incredible. I mean, people are talking about that all week. It's an exciting play, and if you can make it safer, personally I don't think it looks good, but it works out okay, and so I think those are the 2 tweaks we'll end up seeing.
Mike, how do you feel like things have been called? We know that officials are different when it comes to the roughing the passers and things like that. It's pretty clear when they go low on a quarterback. We had that happen last week with Cooper Rush. Clearly you go low on a guy, there's going to be problems. But how do you feel that's been taken care of this year? And you mentioned about the player safety.
I had this conversation at length with Tom Brady yesterday, and I feel like the game has gotten over-officiated. I feel like it's better when it's under-officiated. I think the game plays better. Player safety is obviously the issue that you want to be most concerned about. But I think what we're seeing is more of a transformation, taking officials and taking officiating decisions off of the field. And in New York, little by little, nobody wants the sky judge, but yet the sky judge is almost present. You have a roughing the passer call now for a hit to the head or neck area. If there's no contact at the head or neck area, they can take it off. Quarterback, if they say that he's in the pocket when he throws the ball away and they can put him out of the pocket. They're making more and more decisions. I'm not going to be surprised at all. The hits on defenseless receivers, which we see called a lot, and they're tough plays to officiate. I think we'll see those even become reviewable if they're called to be able to take them off. Same thing as they're doing this year with hits out of bounds. If they rule that the hit is out of bounds and he's not out of bounds, the runner, replay can take it off. We're seeing more and more technology enter the game and will have an effect. Now, is that good or is it bad? I'm not certain. I happen to think that it hurts officials because they become more tentative. But if the goal at the end of the day is to get more plays right, then we've got technology here. We might as well use it.
Mike, is there a rule in the rule book that you just simply don't like, that you would like to either tweak, change, get rid of it altogether? Every week, not necessarily every week, but there's a couple of games I'm like, I've never even seen this rule before. I didn't even know this was part of the game.
You know, forever I talked about the pass interference rule. I just am not a fan. I'm more of a fan of the college rule, where it's a max 15-yard penalty.
Yes, sir. I agree.
You know, I don't like 40-yard free chunks of yardage. And I would sit in my office and I would review plays, and I would see a 40-yard pass interference call, and I would look at it and say, it's not a foul. It's incorrectly called. So you get a chunk of yards that the team shouldn't have gotten. You could kick a guy and only get 15, but you pull his arm and it could be 40. And it's also the most difficult call in the field to make. And so I would ask the competition committee every year, hey, can we go to 15? No. Well, why? Because then they'll just tackle guys. They'll just tackle them beyond 15. And I said, do you ever watch college football on Saturday? If they're close enough to tackle a guy, they're trying to make a play on the ball. They're not tackling the guy. Well, we don't want to take away the deep vertical passing game. I get that, but still too many mistakes are made for big chunks of yardage, but then again, seldom did they listen to me anyways. So that never has a chance of getting through.
Yeah, we interview Stephen Jones every Friday. I'll remind him that you were right a bunch. How about that, Mike, if that helps you? The competition
every time I see Stephen here, Stephen, I have a list of things I want to talk to you about. You need to change this. You need to change this.
Good for you. You're making the game better for sure. You are making it better.
No doubt. All right, Mike, it is Thanksgiving. Do you have any Thanksgiving traditions that you've always had in the family, or the top Thanksgiving food item?
You know, I went into the league office in 1998, and prior to that I was on the field for a couple of years, and so last year was the first Thanksgiving that I had been at home since 1998, and that was only due to my back surgery that I had. So my Thanksgiving, somebody asked me earlier, what are you most thankful for? And I said, Sig Bourbon. Who's Sig Bourbon? Sig Bourbon is a guy that fused my back on 7 levels, put an erector set in my back, and now I'm able to walk again. I got my life back again, and I have so many things to be thankful for, but just the fact that I'm back on Thanksgiving at a football game is right now all I could ever ask for.
Mike, we're thankful to have you, man. Keep doing a phenomenal job. Thank you so much for giving us some time, and happy Thanksgiving to you and yours, sir.
Same to you guys.
There he goes, Fox Sports, Mike Pereira. Of course, you'll be able to hear him on the broadcast with Kevin Burkhardt and Tom Brady today. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Bryan Broaddus as we get closer and closer to kickoff here, about an hour and a half away at AT&T Stadium. Cowboys and the Giants still waiting on those official, we'll get those actives and inactives here very, very soon. Christy Scales will be joining us on the other side. She'll have those as we await. Really, I think Trayvon Diggs, Eric Kendricks, those will be the big ones for the Cowboys, and Drew Lock, as it appears, will be your starting quarterback for the Giants today. As we go around the NFL and the rest of the NFC East, we do have the Lions and Bears game that is going on right now, Brian, and the Lions looking for win number 11 to take their NFL leading record to 11-1. They're up 23-7 right now on the Bears. Bears are driving. They're inside the red zone. Caleb Williams took a wicked hit earlier on in this football game, went to the medical tent. I believe he's back out, though, now and quarterbacking for the Bears. So doesn't look like there was anything too serious wrong with him. Later today, of course, we'll get Dolphins and Packers. That will be the night game as the Dolphins are looking to go on the road and actually win a cold one. 26 degrees is what it's supposed to be there at Lambeau Field tonight for Dolphins and Packers, Brian.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it'd been kind of fun to maybe have a little Thanksgiving dinner out there in the parking lot at Lambeau Field. I'm sure some folks have got that organized. So, yeah, good for the Pack tonight. You know, that NFC North, man, boy, what an interesting division really that division. Is with those teams. So as we get ready, start gearing up for playoff seeding, got to keep an eye on the Lions. I think that Lion team, you let them play at home for all those playoff games, boy, that's going to be tough. They've always had a nice crowd up there, and they play indoors. And that offense can really, really hum along there when they're able to do that.
Special, unique vibe right now going on with that Detroit Lions squad. Let's go ahead and pause 10 seconds really quickly for station identification here on 105.3 The Fan.
Your turn it on, leave it on. Home of America's team is 105.3 The Fan.
Colo, baby.
KRLD-FM and HD1, Dallas-Fort Worth.
An Odyssey sports station.
Coming up on Sunday, it will be the Commanders hosting the Tennessee Titans. Titans are coming off of a big win over Houston. That was an upset. Commanders are looking to get off of this losing skid as they're 7-5 now. They've dropped 3 in a row, including that Cowboys loss a week ago. They're at home against Tennessee. And then the Eagles, who look like they're pulling away here in the NFC East at 9-2. They're going on the road to take on Baltimore. That will be an afternoon game. Probably Romo, Nance, and company on the call there for CBS. That's a big one. Eagles at the Ravens. But you look at this division right now, for a while it looked like the Commanders had a really good chance with that schedule. Now the Eagles a couple of games up with the Commanders faltering a little bit. This looks like it could be the Eagles to lose right now, Bryan.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, the Eagles have done a really, really nice job, and especially defensively. And they took advantage of the schedule, as you mentioned. I mean, the Commanders seem to have the most favorable schedule down the road. I mean, this is going to be a difficult matchup with the Eagles, traveling. Not too far of a trip for them to have to make to Baltimore. Did that plenty of times when I was working with the Eagles. So, yeah, it's a team that is – they run the football exceptionally well with Saquon Barkley, and the rookies that they have in the secondary has really solidified things coverage-wise. They used to be a sieve on the back end, and they're not a sieve anymore. The safety play has been good. The corners, the nickel, all that has done. Mitchell, all those guys have done a really, really nice job of solidifying that Eagles defense.
How about this nugget that I saw floating around? Eagles, most rushing yards this season, as we know. Cowboys have the second fewest rushing yards this season. But both the Cowboys and the Eagles have a run block win rate of 73% there, Bryan. That's interesting.
Yeah, I tell you what, though, it's one of those things, though, it's...
The running back might matter a little bit?
Might matter a little bit in that one. My biggest fear was about that running back turning into something special. He's a special player. He was just on a team that really never could stay healthy, didn't block very well for him up front, and now look at what they've done. Kellen Moore's done a really nice job with that offense as well.
All right, seeing the reports that Trayvon Diggs will be inactive.
Okay.
For a second straight game. That's Jane Slater, Todd Archer. That's all floating around right now on the Cowboys Twitterverse. So he was listed as questionable. He will not be playing today for the Cowboys. We'll get more from Christy Scales coming up on the other side. But we got to give some love now to Legends Hospitality. My gosh, their big feature today, the Tyson Dallas Cowboys Nuggets. They are star-shaped chicken nuggets with the iconic emblem of America's team. Sales of these nuggets, they will be raising funds for the Salvation Army, courtesy of Tyson. Of course, that's one of the best things the Cowboys do on Thanksgiving, that partnership with the Salvation Army. And the big thing as well, also will be serving the Thanksgiving fare. It's the Thanksgiving roll with Legends Hospitality. Thanksgiving sandwich, Thanksgiving bowl, and the Thanksgiving hand pie, all of which sounds absolutely delicious. It's got all of your typical Thanksgiving fixins included in there. The roll, savory herb dressing, green beans, sweet potatoes, cranberry sauce, and a house pecan and hickory smoked turkey bundled and fried in a crispy, delicious egg roll wrap, served with turkey gravy for dipping. They got the turkey sandwich. All of this sounds absolutely outstanding, Bryan, as Legends Hospitality hooks it up. So even if you're coming out for the game, you're not going to be short of your Thanksgiving flair out here.
This team might not have won a game at home. Legends Hospitality is 5-0. They have been
always
outstanding.
Undefeated.
They are undefeated. Every week they provide something in this stadium that's unique, and it's never the, hey, nothing wrong with getting a hot dog and all that stuff again, but the way that they come up with something every single week that pertains to the game, maybe an opponent or something like that, tip of the cap to them.
And as part of today's John Madden Thanksgiving celebration, once again, NFL teams are all going to wear the John Madden patch on their jerseys.
How about that?
I love that tradition. I'm glad that wasn't just a one-off and they're keeping that going, because certainly growing up as a kid who was born in 91, John Madden and Pat Summerall were voicing all of my childhood Cowboy Thanksgiving Day games. So that was brilliant. I know you got to know John a little bit.
I did. Got to go on the Madden Cruiser. Actually, we were the all Madden scouting team, the scouting staff one year. So we all got these really nice Madden sweatshirts for being the all Madden team scouting staff in Green Bay. So, yeah, it was really a pleasure to get to know John Madden. When he came up to Lambeau Field, it was always a treat for all of us.
Looks like the Lions and Bears game, Chicago's gotten on the board here to cut into that Detroit deficit just a little bit. They're in the fourth quarter. It was Keenan Allen, a 9-yard touchdown pass from Caleb Williams,
really
23-13.
Really nice pivot route by Allen. He worked the Lion corner on that particular play. I was kind of watching it from a difference, but like I say, that little bit of an option route, pivot route, able to get inside. Wow. Williams found him for the touchdown. So now it's on the Bears defense to try and get a stop here.
Nice game for Keenan Allen so far. A pair of touchdowns for the Bears. We'll see if they're able to rally as Caleb Williams has both of those passing touchdowns. Jared Goff on the other side, 2 touchdowns as well, both going to Sam Laporta. All right, let's get the scoop from Christy Scales. It's the official pregame show of the Dallas Cowboys. Rolls on here on 105.3 The Fan.
Hi, Drew Pearson, former Dallas Cowboy and now Pro Football Hall of Famer here. If you're struggling with your vision and tired of those
official milk of the Dallas Cowboys. Arrow Exterminators, official pest control provider of the Dallas Cowboys. Buffalo Wild Wings. Blockchain.com. Blockchain.com. Make your crypto play today. And by DallasCowboys.com. Keep track of the boys with daily podcasts and up-to-the-minute blogging at DallasCowboys.com and on the official Dallas Cowboys app.
Pregame show rolling on here on 105.3 The Fan on a Cowboys Thanksgiving Giants game day, as we are now just a little bit over an hour away from kickoff at AT&T Stadium. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Bryan Broaddus getting you set for this one, and we are joined now on the field by the best in the business, Cowboys sideline reporter Christy Scales. And Christy, looks like inactives have just been dropped. What is the plan with Trayvon Diggs today?
He is inactive again this week, so that knee still bothering him. But just like last Sunday, he didn't make the trip. Today, it was actually a true game time decision, and so he is going to be inactive. That means that Josh Butler will be starting opposite Deron Bland at outside cornerback. Jordan Lewis will be in the nickel. Mukwamu will be the backup to Lewis on the inside. But one thing that's also a little bit different last week from Bland making his first start, of course, he had been on injured reserve and hadn't played since that stress fracture in his foot back in August. Bland ended up playing 83% of snaps last week, and he's a little sore coming out of that, so he did rotate out a few series on Sunday at Washington, but look for him. They're going to monitor him more and have him maybe on a little tighter pitch count today. That's Deron Bland, and as we say, already without Trayvon Diggs, who's inactive.
Christy, I asked Babe Laufenberg about who he would start at right guard, and maybe if he had some inside information. I know you got inside information. Who's starting at right guard for you today?
Well, it's Brock Hoffman, so he'll be starting again this week for Zach Martin, and the reason is just his consistency. You know exactly what you got. Of course, TJ Bass had played full games at left guard. I know that Bass had been backing up Zach Martin a lot in Bass's first 2 years here, but with Brock Hoffman, it's his consistency. And then talking with assistant line coach Ramon Chinyong, he says that out of all the guys in the offensive line room, and you know what a great group that is and how prepared they are and how mentally tough and how much they put into it during the week, that other than Zach Martin, Hoffman is the guy who is most prepared coming into a game. And it doesn't matter if Hoffman's inactive or a backup, or if for a second week in a row that he's starting at right guard for Zach Martin. They really appreciate his attention to detail and also a good communicator, especially when you have a rookie at center. So those are the reasons why they're going with Brock Hoffman. As for TJ Bass, he'll be the backup swing guard, so he would enter for Tyler Smith or for TJ Bass. And then Chuma Edoga was active last week, didn't end up playing in the game, but Edoga is active again today, and he will be your swing tackle behind Guyton and over on the right side behind Terrence Steele.
And then Brandon Cooks, he has been activated. He is going to get to be back for the first time since the first Giants-Cowboys meeting. What's the plan with Brandon Cooks today, and maybe a snap count?
Yeah, so they don't have a hard number in mind, but obviously they'll be monitoring him, and it's going to be see how he feels. The one good thing, he's coming off, he had been on injured reserve with the knee. The one good thing about him, about Deron Bland, whose foot was sore after playing Sunday, the good thing is you've got not only your mini bye this weekend, not playing Thanksgiving weekend, but your next game is going to be Monday Night Football against the Bengals, so you get an extra day there. So all of these games that have been squeezed together, these 3 games in 11 days, and then you get a break. The payoff is coming out of the back end, where the next day you not only do you have this weekend, but you got the extra day with a Monday night game hosting the Bengals on December 9th.
And Christy, Cooper Rush was on during the week with the knee. Any concerns there, or should everything be okay?
should be okay. And if we see Trey Lance in, hopefully it's not for injury situation, but they do have some packages and some thoughts for him, and don't be surprised if he gets some snaps today, but it won't necessarily be related to the knee. At least they hope not. The one thing about this week is, he missed a lot of practice, or any of these players. Really, their most serious day of practice was Tuesday, and it was just like an hour and a half and kind of a glorified mock game. I mean, there's just not much that you can do during these short weeks. So you're not overworking them in practice, but the bad news is you don't have a lot of practice time, and guys are sore coming off the Sunday game. So, but let's get through this one, and then everyone will have a little extra time to heal up.
Christy, I know you'll be a big part of our halftime show with Lainey Wilson getting to perform as the special halftime guest for the Cowboys here on Thanksgiving. And nobody's got the scoop when it comes to the Thanksgiving halftime show quite like you. How excited are we for Lainey Wilson today?
Oh, man, this is great. Talking with the Cowboys cheerleaders, they are loving this. It's going to be a special entrance from Lainey today. Not going to pop up out of the stage. Going to come in through the player tunnel, so that's going to be cool coming onto the stage. And then once we get the fourth song in, I cannot give it away. I have been sworn to secrecy, but a very, very popular special guest will be joining her on stage. They've done a duet together, and we'll get that special treat at halftime. So I think it's going to be a fantastic show. And what's so crazy is, in the 28 years that the Cowboys have done the Thanksgiving halftime show for the Salvation Army as part of the Red Kettle Kickoff, with those bells ringing starting this weekend around the country, the Red Kettle campaign in 28 years, over $3.6 billion raised. So there's a lot that goes into this, but there's a great payoff for a really worthy organization and folks who need help. So it's really a worthwhile part of our Thanksgiving tradition.
Christy, you know I love your stories, and I've been asking most of our guests so far today, like their favorite Thanksgiving memories. You've been working a ton of Cowboy games for a long time now, but when you think of Thanksgiving, what are some of the memories that come to mind for you?
Well, I haven't been at home for Thanksgiving since I was 16 years old because I'm a Texas Aggie, and so we played Texas every Thanksgiving night. So, and then after 4 years of Aggies Longhorns, then working Cowboys games. So I've been blessed that 38 years, I guess, of football on Thanksgiving. But gosh, actually, I would say probably some of the old stuff with Washington back when I was a kid. That's what I think about. If you say Cowboys Thanksgiving, I don't think about standing on the sideline. I think about watching it as a kid, and then at halftime going out in the front yard and throwing the football with my cousins. So to me, the tradition goes back to elementary school. So just like everybody listening, it's part of your family tradition, and that's the way it is with the Scales family too.
Thank you, Christy. We'll talk with you a little bit later.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Bryan.
Christy Scales, our sideline reporter, of course. She'll be on the call with Brad Sham and Babe Laufenberg, but officially no Diggs.
Yeah.
You do have Eric Kendricks, but no Marshawn Nealand as well, Bryan.
Yeah, the Nealand one was interesting because it felt like he was moving around pretty well the other day in the game, and it was, probably didn't have the impact that he wanted to have, but I felt like that maybe that they were going in the right direction, but with the games being so close together, maybe want to give him the opportunity to get back fully. So, that's unfortunate. But the Diggs one, Butler, is once again, this receiving core will probably challenge him. And he did a pretty solid job for you last week. Had a lot of tackles because they were going at it.
Right.
So just don't allow the big plays, in this game. We talked with Bob Papa earlier about, maybe the stuff with the Giants and, and their receiving core with Malik Neighbors. They're kind of, they're hopeful that Neighbors can come up with some bigger plays, for them. The crossing routes and run after catch, stuff like that. So, they're going to have their hands full on a couple of different levels with Slayton, Robinson, and then Neighbors. So hopefully everything will work out for them well.
Do you like the continuity there, sticking with Brock Hoffman instead of T.J. Bass at right guard?
You know what? I tell you what, Hoffman, I don't know if he's as good of a player as Bass. I do feel like that Bass is probably a stronger guy. I think they're looking at this as like, okay, smart guy, tough guy, kind of stir it up guy. Maybe gives him a little bit more. that's the continuity of it all. You know, they got a win last week with him playing right guard. They ran the ball with some effectiveness as well. I could see why McCarthy and the staff went that direction, just saying, hey, got a win last week. If they would have lost that game, we might have seen, because we've heard from them that TJ Bass could be the future right guard here.
And it is official. Drew Lock will start for the Giants today against the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Tommy DeVito is going to be serving as their emergency quarterback only. So he's going to dress, but he'll be that third emergency starter.
Yeah, well, then that means if something were to happen like that, Tim Boyle would be the backup quarterback today.
Yeah, good old Tim Boyle there. That's the name I think you could quiz. Hey, who is Tim Boyle? Is that an NFL player or is that not right there? An old game you used to play with us on the G-Bag Nation. 877-881-1053. Some of your favorite Thanksgiving Day memories from the 817. How about the Joneses? Julius Jones versus Thomas Jones.
Yeah.
I think, if memory serves,
that was a Drew Henson start, and it lasted till half.
Yep.
Vinny Testaverde was not available really during the week, and Parcells put him in at halftime of the game, and it ended up being a Cowboy victory. Yeah,
they did, and I think Julius had a heck of a game that day on Thanksgiving. So keep those texts rolling in 877-881-1053. I know we got some of that Green Bay game. Jason Garrett comes in able to win there. There's so many that come to mind, but this is what it's all about. You know, you these memories with your family, your friends. What are you thankful for? Enjoying tremendous food and, of course, glorious football, as we got the Bears and Lions that are on right now. That game in the fourth quarter, and the Lions leading that one as we speak, still 23-13 with the edge there. Just a little over 9 minutes to play in that one as we get you closer and closer to kickoff, just a little over an hour away. Giants and Cowboys here. Got to hear from CeeDee Lamb earlier, 77 catches, leading the National Football League. Hopefully CeeDee Lamb having himself a big turkey day today. They're going to need it, but you do get Brandon Cooks back in the fold, as Christy just told us there, Brian. That's exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting because the one thing that you're going to need is you're going to need some big plays, and it's been about CeeDee Lamb the last several weeks, and unfortunately Dallas has been on the short end, but they need somebody opposite Lamb. They just haven't had Ferguson, hasn't played as well as he has in the past. And unfortunately for the Cowboys, we all kind of thought his game was going to get elevated, but they just haven't been very good offensively. And hopefully Brandon Cooks is really good when it comes to running. Like he'll start on the right side of the formation, and he'll run like an arrow route straight through the defense. If they don't play man coverage, play zone, he finds ways to get open. So that's what you got to like about having Brandon Cooks back in the lineup. He's good on those third down routes as well, finding space and converting them. So without Ferguson in the lineup, nice job by Luke Schoonmaker last week. Spanford played a little bit better. They're going to need those two guys to play as well as they did last week.
They absolutely will. Last hour of the pregame show. We'll get you going. Of course, we'll hear from Christy again. We'll get the owner's box, our coach's corner, Brad Sham visiting with Mike McCarthy, all of that and more. That's going to be extremely exciting. Zach Wolchuk alongside Brian Broaddus as we get you closer to kickoff here on 105.3 The Fan.
Be a star this Thanksgiving by putting them on your plate. Treat your guests to Tyson's.
and Bryan Broaddus. Brought to you by Deutsch Family Wine and Spirits, official wine of the Dallas Cowboys. AT&T, the official sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys. Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. And by blockchain.com. Make your crypto play today. Also brought to you by Bill Nunnally, behind every great company. Jack Link's Beef Jerky. Jack Link's Feed Your Wild Side. Volleman's Dairy, the official milk of the Dallas Cowboys. Tyson Foods. Get your Tyson Cowboy Star Nuggets. Available now. And by DallasCowboys.com. Keep track of the boys with daily podcasts and up-to-the-minute blogging at DallasCowboys.com and on the official Dallas Cowboys app. Now, here's Eric Chiafalo and Bryan Broaddus.
Less than 60 minutes away from kickoff here on the official pregame show of your Dallas Cowboys. Zach Wolchuk in for Eric Chiafalo alongside the Super Bowl winning scout, Bryan Broaddus here. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody, as we get you set for Cowboys and Giants. Cowboys have owned the matchup with the Giants here as of late. They've won 7 straight and 14 of the last 15 against the G-Men, including the first matchup between these two teams at the Meadowlands earlier this season, which the Cowboys were able to win 20-15 back in September. Cowboys lead the series overall, 76-46-2. These teams playing as recently on Thanksgiving as 2022, and the Cowboys got the win 26-20 over the Giants. But let's get the preview for this one, brought to you by Sleep Number, Bryan, the official sleep and wellness partner of the Dallas Cowboys. We found out for sure it is Drew Lock in for Tommy DeVito at quarterback for the Giants. DeVito will be the emergency quarterback. No Diggs today for the Cowboys and no Marshawn Nealand, but Brandon Cooks, Eric Kendricks good to go, and Brock Hoffman will be starting at right guard in place of Zach Martin.
Yeah, a lot going on, but here you are in the NFL late in the season, the short weeks because of, we see this quite a bit now in the league. We only used to see it, with Thanksgiving because of now with the Thursday games and stuff like that. So all these teams are having to navigate these short weeks. And then, the Cowboys, even though that was a noon game, when it was a long game and then have to travel back. And then the Cowboys used to have an advantage where the league would put them at home and then they would get the Thursday game as well. And then I think some folks kind of said in the league, told the league, like, listen, you can't be doing that you can't give them that much of an advantage. So we're seeing it a little bit more
now. They're on the road.
Yeah, but these, this is going to be a grind, and it's going to be a tough game today. And Drew Lock, I think, is going to make it a tough game. He's very capable. Bobby Belt said it earlier. Drew Lock's capable of lighting you up.
Yeah.
He's also capable of throwing you 3 interceptions too, But it is going to be a different offense with him playing quarterback over Tommy DeVito.
As you were getting your film study this week ready for this Giants offense, obviously you haven't been able to see them with Drew Lock, but the way this offensive line is against a pass rush for the Cowboys, it's getting healthier with Micah Parsons back in the fold. Unfortunately, Nealand not good to go today, but still Carl Lawson, Osa Odigizua. Mozzie Smith had a really good first game against the Giants and is coming off a good performance against Washington. But, that seems to be plus for the Cowboys, but now how does the secondary with no Diggs, but you do have Bland and Josh Butler, who emerged last week, line up against the skilled players for the Giants?
Yeah, you're gonna have to figure out some things. You mentioned Butler was outstanding last week. Christy talked about Bland, and visited with some folks during the week about Bland. They kept asking him on the sidelines, "Hey, you good? You good?" And he said, "Yeah, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's keep going." Well, now you have a little bit of some soreness. Here he is, not really playing the whole entire year. Then all of a sudden, having to play 2 games within 4 or 5 days. So. Yeah, this is the tough thing about it, but they're going to need him to play today. They're going to need to be able to line up and handle Malik Neighbors and handle Darius Slayton and to handle Wan'Dale Robinson. I mean, the one thing about it, you still have got really quality play from your nickel. Jordan Lewis last week, I haven't seen Jordan Lewis line up outside and play, as a normal corner, and I can't remember. And here he is carrying Terry McLaurin, carrying routes. That just shows you what type of player you have in him. So, that'll be good. The matchups with him and Robinson should be pretty good today. But, how can you handle Neighbors? How can you handle Slayton? And I'll tell you what, the Giants have Theo Johnson, the tight end, is a guy you kind of have to worry about catching the football, down the seams and in the middle of the field. And then Tyrone Tracy has been outstanding running the football, 5 yards a carry. And, I think the Giants do not want to get into a game where all of a sudden they're having to throw the ball a ton, because that sets Dallas up for the pass rush. Tracy is their best option to keep this game where it needs to be for them offensively and give them maybe the best chance to win this game.
On the other side, you look at that Giants defense a week ago, on Sunday, you told us about, hey, watch those tight ends.
Yeah.
Those tight ends can score against the Commanders. Well, where's the weakness here for the Giants?
Yeah, I kind of feel like, though, it's really with their defensive line. And it's funny to say that with a guy like Dexter Lawrence in there. He's one of the best tackles in football. You mentioned Jones from Kansas City, but Lawrence, 9 sacks. He gets double-teamed. Look at the metrics. He gets double-teamed. Heck, don't even look at the metrics. Look at the eye test just watching him play. He gets double-teamed 65% of the time in these games. And so, and Dallas did that last time against him. I think he had 25 drop-back attempts. He was doubled 20 of them. Wow. I promise you Dallas is going to find a way to have to double-team him again and see if they can handle that. But this secondary, Deonte Banks has had his issues. He's going to travel. He's likely going to travel with Lamb. If that's the situation, then people have attacked him when he's traveled. It's like, that's your best receiver. Teams have said, listen, you can't cover our best receiver. So he's been attacked quite a bit. Cordell Flock is a guy that he was a third-round pick in 2022. Thinner, kind of a wiry kind of a guy. I've always liked to attack him if I could. And then Drew Phillips has played pretty well for the Giants, but you look at the targets to receptions, right around 80%. So they need to get their pass rush home with Brian Burns and then with Thibodeau. If they don't, then you could go to work on this secondary.
53 minutes to kick here, Cowboys and Giants, and we'll hear from head coach Mike McCarthy, our coach's corner with Brad Sham. That's next. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
Hey, having a game plan to stay healthy this season shouldn't be complicated.
kick here at AT&T Stadium. Thanksgiving Cowboys Giants. And to get you set for that, here's our coach's corner as Brad Sham catches up with the head coach of your Cowboys, Mike McCarthy.
Thank you, guys. Happy Thanksgiving. Mike, happy Thanksgiving to you. Back a million years ago, roughly a million, could have been 600,000, when there were only 2 games played on Thanksgiving in the league, on Thursdays. And the players here, despite the physical difficulty of the short week, used to enjoy it because they said the head coach did not have an opportunity to put together his normally complex game plan and then change it 3 times, which was apparently his custom. So that I say all that to say, over the years, you've now done so many Thursday games, do you find that you pare back for a short week, or with the technological advances, can you go ahead and do a normal game plan and just do it in advance?
I'd say it's definitely closer to a normal game plan, but also, going into Washington, you do make sure that, the game prior to the Thursday game, you make sure you have a full game plan, because you're hoping to have a carryover to the Thanksgiving Day game. So, with the coaching staff, is the way we do the job responsibility. All of our assistant coaches are working it, ahead. So they do have an understanding of what the Giants really helps that you're playing them a second time, and then as you're planning for Washington, so you do have some carryover to what you're covering. So, yeah, but it's important to really, the rest recovery is critical for the players, but I don't want to call it rest recovery for the coaches. You got to make sure the coaches have ample time to get the game plan done properly, because you don't ever want to rush through that process. So that's why we went to late starts on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, because it really helped the coaches get as normal as possible game plan for our guys.
I don't know if you can quantify this, but how much easier was it for you and the staff and the players mentally having won the game in Washington?
Oh, well, it's always easier. I mean, it's all it does. Yeah, it's always easier, and especially what's been going on with us over the last 4 or 5 weeks. So yeah, definitely a lot easier. And I think really the nice part was the Washington game was a noon game, because we were able to get back here by 10 p.m. and kind of get into a semi-normal starting point on Monday.
It seemed to me you were a little tickled by a question you got on Monday, which seems like 2 weeks ago, but it was like 10 minutes, about working with the difficulty of working with success instead of failure, and you said, yeah, we're not exactly out of the dungeon yet. What do you think your players' attitude is about realistically where you are?
I think our players have a very high sense of urgency. They understand what our record is, but clearly understand, the challenges that we've been through and the importance of, we have to play our best football starting today. And, and the biggest thing that we need to do is the self-inflicted wound. So I love the sense of urgency. These men have put, the preparation has been proper, but, the consistency of our performance is what we need to get done, and that'll be huge today.
I want to ask you about 2 of your players who you know better than most fans. Brock Hoffman is one. He's starting at right guard today, and clearly he has made the entire staff fall in love with him. You've seen him for a couple of years, and what is it about him that you like so much?
Oh, Brock has the it. He's that guy. I mean, he's probably the smartest guy in the room. His instincts and awareness are very high. Has a very high understanding of not only what we're doing, what they're doing, but he can apply it. I think that's real the true sign of intelligence when individuals can apply it, in the heat of the moment, consistently and constantly being that attitude, enforcer, confidence, macho personality. So he gives us so much in that area, and I think it's definitely helps our younger players.
And the other one's Josh Butler, who, as far as the fans know, just sprouted out of the ground. You've had him for 2 years. Are you at all surprised by how well he played last week?
Not at all, because that's Josh every day in practice. I mean, Josh is super, super consistent, great personality, but you can see it on teams, and we're fortunate to have Josh, and he even came on too. I mean, these guys are guys that just, they're really good football players, tough guys, have come up the long way. So,
personally, you're so happy for them when they get these opportunities. But yeah, no surprise at all, because this is the way these guys practice every day.
I almost never ask you anything about individual statistics, because that's not why any of you are here. But there are two I want your thoughts on today, and one is the fact that it really surprised me when I looked at the stats on Tuesday. CeeDee Lamb is leading the league in receptions. With everything your offense and your team have been through, I find that staggering, and he didn't realize that. You want to say anything about that?
Well, I mean, I just think it's points to a number of things. I mean, first, CeeDee's a dynamic football player, and there's not really anything that we don't feel like we can't get done with him. Whether it's handing him the ball in the backfield, sweeps and all those things, and and he gives us great flexibility because CeeDee's a student in the game. Plays all the positions. Put him inside, outside, in 3 spot, in the 4 spot. So he gives us that flexibility, which is critical because every week he's going to they're going to cloud to him again today. So every week people are playing to take him out of the game, and he's been productive week in and week out.
The other one is yours. Your next win, which hopefully will be today, ties you with Bill Parcells for where you are on the list, 14th regular season wins. You didn't get into the profession to be 14th in all-time regular season wins. But I know your respect for the history of the game. I would think if you do what you do and you are in the same place in any category as Bill Parcells, that would be somewhat satisfying. You have any thoughts about that?
On no question. I mean, Brad, I think like anything, especially you being around in that era. I mean, Bill Parcells, is a giant in our industry. So fortunate to come up in the 90s, with Marty Schottenheimer and then, Bill Parcells and Dan Reeves and all those great coaches of that era. So just have the tremendous respect for Coach Parcells. And, yeah, I think anytime you have your name mentioned with any of the Giants, it's definitely a blessing.
And finally, I promised Babe Laufenberg that I would give you a message. Okay. He says if you win the toss, you must take the ball.
You're sure?
I'm just telling you what Babe asked me to tell you.
You better tell Babe to check his plan. I know what he's referring to. So I think we've talked too much about it publicly already. Right. So I'm just trying to keep it from the other guy.
Absolutely, and I'm just the messenger. All right, Mike, happy Thanksgiving. Thanks, fellas. Back to you.
Thank you, Brad. There he is, the voice of your Cowboys, Brad Shinn, with Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy with our Coach's Corner. I guess we'll have to monitor. If the Cowboys win the toss, do they take the football?
I love to ask Christy Scales before the game which way she would go. So maybe Scoop will give us the inside.
We certainly will. We'll get those keys to the game with Christy coming up. Nice one developing, Lions and Bears. This one is now coming down to the wire with Chicago driving, trying to steal one, maybe force overtime against the Lions, who have led this throughout as it's 23-20 right now with about a minute to play in the fourth quarter. Let's get our view from the owner's box with Jerry Jones and Christy Scales, and we'll get to know the enemy, get that referee report. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
Dallas football fans, have you heard Buffalo Wild Wings has 2 new limited
Cowboys' Eric Giafalo and Bryan Broaddus.
A little over 30 minutes from kick here at AT&T Stadium. The Thanksgiving Cowboys-Giants matchup today, the early game. This one's going down to the wire. Lions and Bears. Lions trying to hold off Chicago right now. They're up 23-20. Bears got gifted a defensive pass interference penalty, which leads us to know the enemy here, Bryan. Brought to you by Aero Exterminators, the official pest control provider of the Dallas Cowboys. Zach Wolchuk alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Bryan Broaddus. And how are we scouting today's officiating crew?
Yeah, we got Brad Rogers' crew today, and if there's any indication what we've seen in the first game, man, there are way too many fouls in this game. I know Mike Pereira was talking about a clean game earlier when we had him on, but man, it just seems like to me that we're getting way too many calls here early in these games. But Brad Rogers is about 10th when it comes to the number of penalties that him and his crew call. What's interesting is they've penalized home teams more than they have visitors. 77 calls against the homes, 58 against the aways. Wow. Keep an eye on that today. Need to worry about the offensive holding. That seems to be the one that they like to call the most. Defensive pass interference would be next. Here we go again. Illegal formation. Got to make sure that the tackles are up on the ball. This crew, that would be their third highest penalized play that they deal with. So got to make sure that these tackles are up on the ball. Defensive holding. Here's the other one. The last one I'm going to talk about, delay of game. 7 of those in 10 games. So one, almost a little less than one a game for these for Brad Rogers and his crew. They're going to clock watch on you. If that thing gets down, gets close, keep an eye on that.
All right, let's go ahead and pause 10 seconds to allow stations to identify themselves across the Dallas Cowboys radio network.
Your turn it on, leave it on. Home of America's team is 105.3 The Fan.
Hello, baby.
KRLD-FM and HD1, Dallas-Fort Worth.
An Odyssey sports station.
Time now to get our view from the owner's box, brought to you by Yeti, official cooler of the Dallas Cowboys and the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. Here is your owner and general manager, Jerry Jones, standing by with Christy Scales.
Jerry, I know that this is your favorite owner's box interview of every season because you get to brag on the work now 28 years into this with the Salvation Army and the Red Kettle Kickoff and the Cowboys using this platform for good. And this year, Laney Wilson, what a show.
Well, first of all, Laney is such a pleasure to know and be around. I wish all of our fans could meet her firsthand. She's real, and just so talented. But I don't know if anybody works harder than Laney. And I'm proud of her for that as well. But to have her out here to go before the nation here on Thanksgiving Day is a real honor, and we're so proud because the benefactor is going to be the Salvation Army. And boy, those red kettles just seem to reach out at folks. We are proud to be able to present it and kick that kettle campaign off here, and to think that we've really exceeded $3 billion that the Salvation Army gives us credit for actually incrementally increasing the donations by that amount. And so we're proud of that. To me, this has always been a way that sports, NFL, in our case the Cowboys, can give back and use what this is, and that's a lot of interest on Thanksgiving Day to remind people that about the real thing we need to think about on Thanksgiving, and that's those that don't have it. There's so many people that'll have Christmas, so many people that'll have shoes that don't. It's really a pleasure. Not a pleasure, it's an honor to be involved with this. It's maybe the best thing that's happened to me and the Cowboys.
When Charlotte, your daughter, came to you with this idea for doing something on Thanksgiving at halftime, and I know it's been over 28 years, but could you have ever imagined that it'd be over $3.6 billion at this point?
Well, I know this. She had big ideas, and she had a vision, and but no, we could have never dreamed that we could reach as many people by putting it together on Thanksgiving Day. And to give her some credit, she puts together quite a presentation of it, and the networks told me from the very beginning, now if you don't do it Super Bowl style, we'll cut away, because we've got other things we could have on television. Of course, they've been wonderful, and they've basically had this ceremony and really reminded people about what the Salvation Army is all about. And but I'm thankful for Charlotte's, not only her idea, but more importantly, how she's executed it over the years. And this really is one of the really great for helping people, charitable things that we have in our country is the fact that we have almost 3 million volunteers. And then you have the ability to basically have a way for them to get the attention that we give it on Thanksgiving Day, and then have that conduit to go out there and put $1 in that red kettle.
Well, let's talk about the opening act for Lainey Wilson, and that's the Dallas Cowboys football team coming off some momentum from Washington, and your offense getting a boost with the return of Brandon Cooks. How much should we expect to see from Brandon today, and how do you think that that'll be a shot in the arm for the passing game?
Well, I think his speed, of course, I know that we're going to have that Turpin in there a lot on that offensive side of the ball as well. So that really gives us some real speed out there that gives defense a second thought. That threat alone will make a difference. But then, of course, him as a player, he can make those plays work for us. So it's good to have him back.
How do you see the secondary today? We know Trayvon Diggs is not available again today, but Deron Bland is back. And then that young man, Josh Butler, what an inspiring story as he makes his third start at cornerback. How do you see the secondary? Because they have a really good receiver, the Giants do, and Malik Neighbors.
What I think that Butler stands for is going out and taking his coaching and doing what the coaches are asking him to do. And he believes in it. He may not be the rated highest talented corner or highest talented D-back in the league, but he's doing what the coaches are telling him to do. He's staying disciplined. He stays in his assignment. And when you do that, it'll come your way. And so he's really, to me, a real example of where this defense is going, where it went the other day against Washington, where it can go in the future.
And I guess that's why he's a game captain today, as rewarded by Mike McCarthy.
It should be, because of his example to all of us of just follow the instruction and see what happens.
We wish you a very happy Thanksgiving.
You too, Heather.
Thank you so much. That's the view from the owner's box. And as we continue counting down to Giants and Cowboys, let's turn things back over to Zach and Bryan.
Thank you very much, Christy. We will go inside the booth with Brad Sham. We'll also get Christy back on the broadcast, get our keys to the game. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
Cowboys football and Miller Lite. What a pairing. Can cracks at kickoff. Tailgates going way.
2024. Time now to bring in the voice of your Cowboys, Brad Sham, as we go into the booth. Brought to you by WinStar World Casino and Resort, the casino of the Dallas Cowboys. Please game responsibly, and a happy Thanksgiving, sir.
Happy Thanksgiving to you. Are you chilly?
I'm just getting ready to book it straight over to the press box and then get our seats ready to rock.
Is that like a shirt jacket, or it looked like your top coat there for a minute?
It is a little bit. It is kind of like a shirt jacket the way that the inside.
It's very fashionable.
Very thin. It's very thin. I'm trying to be a little fashionable.
It's very fashionable. Bryan Broaddus is resplendent in his LSU club sweater vest. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving to you, sir. If I'm Shane Bowen, you ask, is the special teams coach for the Giants. You're fired, Shane Bowen, if you kick the ball to that number 9 today.
Yeah, I mean,
Can we do that on the sidelines?
Yeah.
Can we just say, you kick the ball to number 9 today, you're fired?
He does not need to be a factor in the game. Because the Cowboys don't. Be interesting to see what Brandon Cooks has, but the Cowboys don't have much offensively.
Right.
And Turpin as a return man is one of their best things. And he's leading the league, for crying out loud.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and Gano is back. Last time they played him, they didn't have Graham Gano as their kicker. I mean, every ball just hit it out of the end zone.
Sure.
You can do that, can't you, Graham?
Sure.
Yeah, no, you're right.
What are you thinking about this Giants team? It'll be Drew Lock at quarterback. We haven't gotten to see him play with the Giants.
Nobody has, but Bryan and I were just talking about it. I think he's a more dangerous, he's a more polished quarterback than DeVito. This is the Bears just almost beat the Lions.
Yeah.
I mean, they had to work at it a little bit to lose. So anything can happen. And I was tickled by McCarthy. Somebody asked McCarthy, Zach, on Monday or Tuesday about did this win. Now, you've talked before about having to learn how to deal with success, not just with failure.
Yeah.
And McCarthy said, hey, we're still in the dungeon.
We're still in the depths.
We're still down in the depths.
Yeah.
But they need to remember that. They're not that much better than this Giants team, and the Giants team is not good. But as Babe and I were talking, Zach, when we got here a couple hours ago, if you look at the Giants' defensive team, now I know they're not playing well and their numbers against the run are awful. But if I asked you, would you take Thibodeau on your team? Would you take Burns on your team? Would you take the nose tackle on your team?
Yep, Dexter Lawrence.
Would you take Okereke on your team?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they've got some good players. And so you're going to have to really you have to take care of the football. And you're going to have to remember that you're not that much better than them, if you're better at all.
Thank you, Brad. We appreciate you, sir.
Happy Thanksgiving, man.
Happy Thanksgiving. We'll
Enjoy your Tyson's Nuggets.
Oh, man, these were delicious. I know Babe was getting into them as well. These Tyson's Nuggets here are
I think Babe
fantastic.
took an entire box.
Good for him.
Yeah. Hey, Tyson people, if you're listening, Babe Laufenberg, big fan of your Cowboy Star Nuggets. He needs about a case.
Yeah, just for him, just for Babe down there. All right, let's go ahead and get our keys to the game as we go back to the field with Christy Scales, brought to you by Pollock Aurora, proud supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. And Christy, as we've been chatting, some developments. What do you think the keys for the Cowboys defense is against that runner, Tyrone Tracy, for the Giants?
Well, he's averaging over 5 yards a carry and has some power in terms of able to get yards after contact. So talking with some of the defensive staff, that's what they see with this kid, Tracy. And so the key for the Dallas run defense today is, I'm told, more than one hat on the ball. So because he's been able to slip some tackles and so many of his yards have been after contact. So you're going to have to swarm and make sure you get more than one hat helping tackle Tyrone Tracy.
Christy, what about the reps, what you're going to get with Bland and Cooks? How's that going to work?
Right, so with Diggs inactive, Bland will be starting outside at one cornerback, Josh Butler on the other, Jordan Lewis on the inside. Bland last week in his first action coming off the foot surgery from back in August, played over 80% of the snaps. he was sore, and this is a short week. So even though he rotated out a few series on defense Sunday at the Commanders, look to see he may get fewer snaps this week as he's dealing with that soreness. As for Brandon Cooks, the Cowboys wide receiver playing for the first time, coming off injured reserve. Last time he played was at New York early in the season. So it's not a hard number, a pitch count of we want this many plays, but they're certainly going to be monitoring it as he comes off of that knee injury. And then the other thing is you've got the mini bye this weekend, so we're not playing Thanksgiving weekend, and then the next game is going to be on Monday, December 9th. So some extra time for not only Cooks and Bland, but all of these guys who are banged up at this point of the season to have a little bit of time to recover as they start the December push for the end of the season.
Any final thoughts before this one kicks off here, Christy?
No, special. They're in their double star uniforms. They've got the John Madden silhouette patch. It's just going to be a cool look, and can't wait for halftime. We will carry Lainey Wilson Salvation Army Red Kettle Kickoff halftime show live here on Cowboys Radio.
Looking forward to it. We'll catch up with you at half, Christy.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Bryan.
There she goes, Christy Scales, who will, of course, be on the call with Brad and Babe. And, Bryan, as we put a bow on this one, prediction time. Cowboys looking to make it 8 in a row against the Giants. Do they do it?
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, late we saw on the inactive list, Banks, the corner, not playing in this one.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah, we'll see how the Giants navigate that one. Cowboys 26, Giants 16.
I like that score. I'm going to go Cowboys 27, Giants 24. Brandon Aubrey with a game-winning field goal as time expires for your Dallas Cowboys as they get ready to take on the Giants, looking for their first home win here at AT&T Stadium. Giants at 2-9, 2-3 on the road. Cowboys looking to make it 5-7 and get back-to-back wins for the first time since they beat the Giants and the Steelers in back-to-back weeks. The Lions did hold off the Bears 23-20. Caleb Williams throwing a pass with 6 seconds left as time expired, and the Bears unable to kick a game-tying field goal, even get the attempt on. Bears had a timeout in their back pocket as well. Crazy ending there. All right, Brad, Babe, Christy, they got you covered. Myself, Zach Wolchuk, alongside Brian Broaddus will be back on for halftime and the post game with you. Happy Thanksgiving. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
Tom Thumb's new Drive Up and Go service makes grocery shopping easy and convenient for anyone.
25 pounds of ground chuck, 15 bags of hamburger buns, 28 bags of